Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of Divergent Dialogues. Today's going to be a little bit of a different kind of episode. We do have a guest, Annie Kotowicz, although she's not going to be attending in person. She has an audiobook that she has sent us, and we're going to play a little bit of that and also talk a little bit about Annie and her book. I thought it was quite interesting the way that Annie reached out to me. She said that, I guess, in terms of her accommodations and autistic needs, didn't feel that like a podcast was maybe for her. And yeah, asked if we could play a bit of her audiobook instead. And I thought, oh, you know what, let's give this a go. I thought it was a bit interesting. We do like having guests on the podcast, but yeah, I just thought it was a little bit of a different way to approach it. So Annie Kotowicz is an autistic author on a mission to describe the beautiful view from her brain, help other autistics see the beauty of their own brains, and show why neurodiversity is a beautiful thing. She studied art and English at Trinity Western University, which led to various jobs in graphic design, editing, and website development. After an autism diagnosis in 2017, she created the blog Neurobeautiful to process her ongoing discoveries about autism and neurodiversity. Since then, she's become a Chief Technology Officer, Special Education Teacher, and member of Mensa. What I mean when I say I'm autistic is her book. She has also written articles and poetries for Edutopia, Neuroclastic, and Spaces Literary Journal. Annie is happiest when writing, dancing, practicing parkour, drawing Celtic knots, or organizing her cozy and colorful home near Washington, D.C. And Teena is going to read out a little bit about Annie's book.
Yes, thank you. Member of Mensa. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. So in this intimate and insightful mix of memoir and manifesto, Annie Kotowicz?
Yes.
Kotowicz invites you inside the mind of an autistic woman, sharing the trials and triumphs of a life before and after diagnosis. How might it feel to be autistic? Why are autistic and non-autistic people both so puzzling to one another? How does neuroscience explain the spectrum of autistic traits? And what could you discover about your own mind, neurotypical or neurodivergent, through learning about another? Drawing on stories from her blog, Neurobeautiful, along with memories never shared before, Annie has created a nuanced analysis of her autistic thinking and engaging guide to autistic thriving and a beautiful celebration of autistic brains. What I mean when I say I'm autistic will inspire autistic people and those who love them, offering help and hope to anyone seeking a deeper understanding of autism.
Excellent. So we're just going to play a little section of Annie's audiobook.
What I mean when I say I'm autistic. Unpuzzling a Life on the Autism Spectrum. Written by Annie Kotowicz. Narrated by Meredith Aaliyah Wells. And published by Neurobeautiful. Introduction. Why this matters. There are thousands of us, women who discovered our autism well into adulthood, well past many of the memories it explains. We're too late in life to prevent a multitude of misunderstandings, yet too early in history to say, I am autistic, and trust that everyone will know what we mean. We need to unpuzzle the past to heal our hearts, and the present to see who we are. There are millions of us, autistic people of all ages and genders, trying to make ourselves understood, trying to survive as sensitive souls in an unwelcoming world. We're hardly ever fully at ease, and hardly ever fully ourselves. We need to unpuzzle our behavior so that people will recognize our reasons and our rights. There are billions of us, humans everywhere, with access to our own minds and no one else's, tossing one another songs and sentences to bridge the gap. We're endlessly experimenting with new ways to translate our experiences and listening curiously as others experiment too. We need to unpuzzle one another, and it becomes easier the more we unpuzzle ourselves. Yet there is only one me, and this is my story. Not the whole story of a life, but parts of it. The parts that best illuminate what I mean when I say I'm autistic, and the parts that were most puzzling before I discovered this crucial fact about myself. Maybe you'll see yourself reflected in my words. Maybe you won't, even if you are autistic. Maybe you'll see a palette of possibilities for what people you love might be feeling. Or maybe you'll doubt that I could possibly have a mind like theirs. Maybe you'll figure out what resonates and what doesn't before sharing my words with someone else to help them understand you better. Maybe, like me, you've been wounded by the stereotype of autism as a puzzle, or at least the implication that we're impossible to understand. I've spent 5 years trying to undo that assumption, writing posts and articles under the pen name NeuroBeautiful. For 2 of those years, I also worked at a school where most of the students are autistic. There, I tried to figure out which of my experiences are caused by autism and which are merely me. I eventually concluded that there's no difference between the two. Autism affects all of my experiences, but it does so in ways that are unique to me. Others may be similar, more similar than we appear from the outside, but no two minds are identical, even if we share the same neurotype. In spite of the wide variety across the autism spectrum, I hope that this book will give you a way to interpret any autistic behavior through the lens of neuroscience. I've applied my understanding of autism to personal stories, but this is more than a memoir. It's also a model of how autism works, a mirror of how autism can feel, and a manifesto celebrating the beauty of autistic brains. Prologue: A conversation with little me. You look kinda grumpy.
Yeah, a teacher was mean to me.
What happened?
I was using my hula hoop as a jump rope, and he yelled, "Stop that!"
Wait, as a jump rope?
I mean, holding it in front of me, and stepping through, and then flipping it back over my head so I could step through again.
Sounds fun.
I do it all the time at recess, but he wouldn't let me do it in the hallway.
Ah, see, that makes sense, because you could hit someone.
But he acted like I broke a rule. Nobody told me it was a rule.
There are a bunch of rules that no one will ever tell you. They're called unspoken rules.
Well, if it's unspoken, people shouldn't get mad at me for not knowing it.
Yeah, they shouldn't. But I'm pretty sure he wasn't as mad as he sounded. He just wanted you to stop right away.
I think he was mad. I think he doesn't like me.
He doesn't understand you, so he doesn't know how much you care about understanding the reasons for things.
Unspoken reasons?
Unspoken reasons for unspoken rules.
Those aren't fair.
They're not. But you'll get better at figuring them out over time. It's even kind of fun to find the patterns behind them.
Patterns?
Like anything that might hurt someone is usually a bad idea.
I know that already.
But there are a million ways to apply it, and no one has listed all of them.
I could. That sounds fun.
You could, but the list would never be finished. It's better to learn how people think. Most of them think in a different way than you do.
I know.
You mean you know that it's different. Someday, you'll learn how and why. Chapter 1. Discovery. how I found out who I am. As a child, I could already tell that most people experienced life very differently than I did. However, I suspected that there might be a few whose experiences were closer to mine, or almost the same, if we found ourselves in identical situations. Every once in a while, I would spot a stranger, or sometimes a minor character in a movie or play, and imagine that she might be one of the humans who felt like me. I imagined us having similar motivations, reactions, memories, and perspectives. I had a word for such people, a me. I would see them and think to myself, I wonder if she's a me. I eventually learned that it wasn't just my imagination. I really do see the world differently and was trying to spot others who share my neurotype. That is, mine's on the autism spectrum. I even labeled it correctly, since autism comes from the Greek word for self. Once I knew where to look, I found that the world is full of people like me. Finding my people. In my mid-20s, I met a new group of friends who understood me in ways that no one else did. They seemed to ignore societal expectations of how a person should sit, talk, move, dress, and act, freeing me to do the same. They also actively appreciated parts of my personality that others found annoying, such as my drive to clarify precisely what I mean. My unspoken attitude toward these friends was always, these people are so incredibly cool. Everyone who can't see past their odd mannerisms is truly missing out. I confess that I had the audacity and snobbery to imagine that strangers who saw me with them would do a double take. Wonder why someone as seemingly normal as me was enjoying their company, and maybe reconsider their own prejudices. But I was more like my friends than I suspected. A few years later, while visiting with these friends, the topic of utopias came up. One of them said that her idea of a utopia would be to live on a separate planet with all the people who are easy for her to talk to, and none of the people who aren't. I eagerly agreed, since I love her clear and direct communication style, and would enjoy a world full of such people. So would I get to be on your planet? I asked, hoping that the answer would be yes. Yes, definitely, she answered. Then she added, oh, and autistic is a short way to describe the kind of people I mean. Wait, what? I asked, feeling both confused and curious. I knew almost nothing about autism at the time, except that it sometimes causes children to rock back and forth. She encouraged me to
Annie
go on.
for sending us her audiobook. Yeah, it was an interesting listen. I always love listening to other autistic folks' experiences. And I thought it might be a great opportunity for Teena and I to talk a little bit about how we came to understand that we're autistic. And, it's been a few years now since we've been diagnosed. So having a little chat around I guess how we perceived ourselves at the beginning as to now, like how things have shifted and changed for us. And yeah, maybe talk about some of that kind of internalized ableism type stuff that us autistic folks tend to experience, and I guess how we've moved through that over the last few years. But yeah, I thought that could be cool. Interesting.
Yeah. And there is so much to say about that because, it has been a few years now. And, my journey to diagnosis was led by my children and, seeing those similarities and so forth. And, I remember, post-diagnosis learning all about like masking and the ableism really. And, slowly learning about what are the things that I do because I feel like I absolutely have to. And, having a bit of maybe anger or frustration that I live in a world where I had to do all of these things just to make everyone else happy. So of course I was going to stop all of that and never do it again. But then the next part of the journey was learning how when I choose to do some of these things, it's actually useful and helpful. So now I operate in a way where it is absolutely my choice when and how and the how long, all the choosing points that I do things. And yeah, it is a long journey. And it can be difficult trying to pull it all apart, but understanding and knowing yourself is where it's all at.
Yeah, I'm like trying to think back. I'm like, gosh, it feels like forever ago. Um, just trying to think, like, when was the well, I remember the exact moment when I figured out that I was autistic. We probably talked about it before on the podcast, I can't remember. But I think, like, I guess for me, I had like a massive burnout. I left my permanent job, went into private practice, started having these referrals with like autistic clients, seemed to vibe really well. Was like, this is really cool. No idea why we're vibing so much. Um, and then I guess, I don't know, Tina and I got really interested in working with autistic folks, and we're at a training, and there was this video um of like three children, one of them female, and there was like a narrator narrating the inner experience of this young girl. And as we know, a lot of girls and women have very kind of internalized experiences of autism and maybe highly masking. And basically, this narrator was like narrating my inner thoughts as a young person. And I was like, oh my God. And Teena and I, it was online. So Teena and I were at home on our computers, but we were talking over Facebook Messenger. And I was like, oh my God, Teena, we're autistic, we're autistic. And Teena's like, oh my God, yes, I think we are. It was such a weird, yeah, like a weird moment. I remember it so vividly. It was just like, it's just like that moment where like everything just clicked into place, and I'm just like, oh my God, how did I not figure this out sooner? It's so fun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I remember that. It's when you hear your experience, but through someone else, or especially in that training setting that we were in, it's just there's almost like a bit of disbelief. It's like, no, it can't be, but it fits. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting though, because it literally wasn't until um someone had presented that highly masked internalized experience of autism that I could relate to that. Like there was two boys and one girl for I don't know what reason, but the two boys, like I couldn't relate to that experience at all. And a lot of what they were demonstrating were outward behaviors. And yeah, so I'm just like, gosh, if I didn't go that training, maybe I still wouldn't know. No, I think I would have figured it out by now.
Yeah, I think you would have fit. There are signs.
There are a few signs. There are a few signs.
Yeah, like your ponies.
Yeah. So you mentioned that. So for you, it was led by your kids. I think for me, like I was the first person in my family, um, to be diagnosed and kind of explore that. So I think that was a bit of an interesting experience for me, because it's like when you're the first person in your family to do that, you're having to do a lot of educating. You're having to work through a lot of um beliefs that people have about autism that are often wildly inaccurate. Um, it's a lot of hard work, because you're not only processing your feelings, but like everyone else is having feelings. Some people are in disbelief. Parents are like in, I guess I think for a lot of parents, they feel a lot of guilt that they didn't pick it up, even though it's totally not their fault, because, of all the reasons why, you know, I think particularly female presenting people don't get picked up because there's this stereotypical version of how autism's meant to look.
Well, and girls are like so heavily conditioned into their gender role from the minute, conception these days, because we have early gendering of our babies. But and yeah, that socialization into that female gender role, it means that you're taught exactly the way you're supposed to present to the world and how you're supposed to behave in various different settings and environments. And so for autistic people, if we're given a set of rules to follow, a set of expectations, except the PDA is amongst us, of course. But if we're if we're given that sort of set of rules, expectations, and a template to follow, we're going to follow it. Because that's easy. It's like, okay, cool. You're telling me in this school setting, this is what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it, and what I'm supposed to look like, when to talk, how to talk, all of that stuff. So it's it makes life a bit easier, but then it also means that we're just good girls. So there's no need to offer support, resources, attention, or anything else.
Don't get me wrong, Teena. I'm good at following the rules as long as they make sense to me.
True. Well, that's true. That's true for me as well, actually. Yeah. One of the catalysts for me leaving my comfortable government job was the fact that they had asked me to do a task that I just couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't figure out the purpose. It was just no reason for it. It was really just a red tape bullshit thing. And I'm like, I just can't do this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I think it's like, Teena and I were both late diagnosed. So going from not understanding this integral part of ourselves for so much of our life, and then this sort of like bombshell of, oh, okay, we're autistic. And it's like, what do I do with this? And then I guess having to understand ourselves and our needs and where to from here, but also kind of educating and helping other people to get on board and to understand this. Because some people, they just flat out deny it. They're just like, no, you're not autistic. It's like, well, how would you know? Like, are you in my brain?
Yeah. And I think it really does. It does come down to that whole, well, you don't look autistic. And I think when people are making comments like that, they're really referring to autism only being of, higher support needs and co-occurring diagnoses of, maybe mental health or intellectual impairment or, a raft of other things that can come with autism. But it's like, well, if you don't look like this, then you're not autistic.
Yeah. Yeah. But also like, depending on, your ability to engage in study or employment or have friends or whatever it is, like, yeah, there can be quite a narrow view of, of what that looks like. But I don't know, I was just thinking, as well, like, I think, that there's so much that you go through. Like, I think I experienced a lot of grief, um, throughout my process of understanding my diagnosis. Like, I think there's a lot of, what could have been if I knew, or what kind of support could I have had, or would I be a different person, or would my life look different? And yeah, I think it's just, for me, it was very reflective. I don't know if you had a similar experience.
Yeah, definitely very reflective and thinking all of those things. And I really needed an answer to it. I needed some sort of answer to understand, well, what how did I get to where I am without all of that knowledge? And I think ultimately I landed on my life wouldn't be necessarily better. It might be different, but not necessarily any better if I had found out sooner that, yeah, my journey to where I am now was influenced by a lot of different things. And even if I had known earlier and I had been able to get the support that I need, and learn about the things like motion regulation, sensory stuff, overstimulation, I might have been much better at regulating myself earlier in life and things like that. But yeah, if I'd made different decisions, then yeah, I potentially would be missing really important parts. And yeah.
Yeah, I think like I guess the conclusion that I came to is that basically we just have to fundamentally live at a different time period in society for that to happen.
Yeah.
It's very autistic of me, but I was just like, I thought about it and I'm just like, there's it, and I think this is something that I say to clients, particularly when they're having these thoughts and, particularly when there's family or parents that are feeling quite guilty. And I just say, like, look, like it's no one's fault. Like it's literally just such misunderstanding. Um, and like unfortunately, there are sometimes some family members and parents that do kind of deny their autistic child's or family member's experience. Like, definitely want to validate that. But like often it's just like it's no one's fault. Like everyone was doing the best that they could with the information and the resources that they had. And 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago, like I work with people who are like in their 50s and they've only been diagnosed in the last few years.
Mm.
Like they're just there really just wasn't a great understanding. Like now we have access to so many resources on the internet, we have social media, all these sorts of things. Like a lot of people do find out that they're autistic through social media or blogs or, and whatever else.
Yeah.
They hear their experience and go, oh my gosh, like that's me.
Yeah. And it can get a bit confusing because some of those I don't know, reels, whatever it is that you're watching,
Whatever the kids listen to these days.
the kids these days listen to. It can be a bit vague and generalized and confusing, and it can make things a bit hard to completely apply to yourself. But yeah, it does bring awareness to what autism can look like when it doesn't look like what we see on TV, and I think that's got to be a good thing.
What random question? If you could like travel back in time to like Teena a few years ago, when you're first diagnosed or first, you know, identified as autistic, what are some things that you would say to that Teena, do you think?
Good question.
I know, I have to think of an answer too for myself. I thought, oh, that's a cool question.
Yeah. I think that what I would say to her would be take regular breaks. I think if there was anything that I wish I could have known earlier was about energy levels, that it's not my diet, it's not because I haven't exercised enough, it's not because I'm not sleeping well enough, it's because I need regular breaks. So I would say work a 4-day week, have yeah take an early afternoon, just take regular breaks.
I think mine would be get some really good noise cancelling earbuds.
Oh yeah, that was a bit of a game changer as well. Yeah, I think, but with the taking regular breaks, I think I would have to also add to that, that when you're having that break, you do not have to sit down and meditate or, take a nice long walk on the beach. It is okay to sit down and take regular breaks to deep dive into your research or the thing that you are super passionate about.
Yeah. I think what I would say is, um, I guess it's a journey of really accepting yourself as you are. Peeling back a lot of layers, and it is a process. Like, you're not just going to be overnight like, okay, I'm autistic and everything makes sense and I feel empowered. Like, it really is a process of peeling back all these layers and understanding all these different experiences. But fundamentally it is about like self-love and self-acceptance. And it can be challenging because being autistic can be really hard sometimes. It's like, I am really lucky that I'm at a point in my life now where I have a pretty good understanding and I have support. But there are some days where it's like, it'd be nice to go to the shops and, not feel like I'm on the verge of having a meltdown because there's, noise and I don't know. It's going into Christmas time now, so I'm like dreading the
People being
carols and
people being
that kind of thing.
incentives for recreational purposes.
Yeah. So, I think I've found ways to be able to manage that as best as I can and cope. And I know what my limits are now, so I don't force myself to stay in those environments when I'm overwhelmed. But, there's a lot that I have to consider. I can't just get up, put clothes on and go outside if I want to come home and feel okay. But I think, like, now I understand myself so well that that's so integrated into my life that I almost don't notice it as much anymore. It's just, oh, okay, well, this is just what I do. And the people around me understand that about me as well. So they're just like, okay, well, that's just what Caitlin does, and that's what they need. And yeah, I'm not just being a pain in the butt.
Yeah. I think that in the journey as well, it is also getting really comfortable with making those decisions for yourself. And there's no expectation for others to, like rearrange themselves or accommodate me if I'm saying, hey, you know what, I just don't have it. I'm not going to make dinner tonight. There's no expectation for them to move the dinner plans or things like that. My only expectation is that, whoever it is respectfully says, okay, no worries, maybe we'll catch you next time. Because I don't want to cancel and then be made feel guilty for not being able to attend. So it's, that having that sort of shift has, because previously it might have been like, oh, I'm so tired, I just can't, I can't just cancel, I'll have to reschedule, and that throws everyone else out. And yeah, it's having that bit of a shift has taken away some of the pressure and anxiety that comes with fluctuating energy levels and ability to socialize.
Yeah. I mean, often, like, a lot of autistic people, they just want the space to be themselves or to meet their needs. Like, and there will be times where maybe others do need to support or do need to adjust or do need to accommodate. Like, I can't think of an example right now off the top of my head. Okay, I'll think of an example. Like, if I'm in the car and my partner's like blasting the music, which he doesn't do, by the way. Like, I can put my noise canceling earbuds in, right? But like, that's like, if it's like really, really loud, like that's not going to cut it. So there's a point there where it's like, well, we have to compromise. I can put my noise canceling earbuds in. You can put your music on. But if you blast it, like, I'm just going to get real dysregulated and mad. So I guess that's a simple example of that. But
I have a strict rule in my car that if you're in my car, you're absolutely not allowed to have your phone with any noise coming out of it.
yeah,
So you can't be on Instagram listening to reels or no, don't, just turn it down, because that makes it way worse when it's this buzzing rather than a muttering. But if I'm driving, I can't. It's so dysregulating for me. It's just like, nope. If you're in my car, you must have your own earbuds if you want to be listening to your phone.
Yeah, well, she drives me around a lot, so I feel like I have to have some compromise.
Fair.
Yeah. because she probably can't have earbuds in while she's driving. But and I kind of feel like the person who drives gets to pick the music.
Me too.
But anyway, that's just like a side note. But yeah, like I think a lot of autistic people, they just don't want to have to explain. They don't want to feel guilty. They don't want to feel shame. Like that example that you gave before, Teena, of it's like, okay, today for whatever reason, I'm not feeling it. I just want to be able to tell my friends, hey, have a great time. I'm just not feeling it today. And for them to just be like, yep, totally get it. That's fine. We're going to go do whatever. Catch you next time. Like, it's like, you know, some people might be like, oh, you know, depending what it is, they might be like, oh, can we reschedule? That's totally fine as well.
Yeah.
Like, but sometimes it's just like, I just want to be able to opt out and it be like not a big deal.
Yeah, because the rescheduling can feel a bit like pressure. Like, oh, now I've got to find another time and an update. Oh my goodness. So yeah, the ability to just opt out as opposed to have to rearrange everything. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So I think yeah, being able to advocate more for my needs is something that I've noticed, or I just automatically kind of accommodate myself in some ways. Feeling more confident to let other people know. But yeah, it's funny, like I remember when I first was diagnosed, like I felt like I just thought so much about it every day. And I mean, obviously a big special interest for me is autism and neurodiversity and neuroaffirming practice and all that. So I was gonna be like, I don't even think about it every day. I'm like, yeah, actually I do. But I don't know. I think I think like there's less of an internal process for me now. Like I feel like I've done a lot of work and integration around my understanding of that. So it's just kind of like, oh, this is me. This is how I am. This is how I show up. This is, yeah, like I feel much more settled in myself with it all.
Yeah. 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 No, so do I. So do I. I feel very comfortable. I mean, in saying that, there's still lots of times where I notice that I won't, disclose that I'm autistic or ADHD. And I mean, that's personal choice. And it's usually because I can pick up on the fact that I don't want to have to educate this room. So I'm just not going to say anything because I don't want the burden of having to educate. So I will remain silent.
Yeah, I think, I do have like a bit of a neurodivergent bubble that I operate in. And then sometimes I'll interact with, you know, someone who's not neurodivergent or like a space that's not like super affirming or aware. And I'll be like, oh, these places exist. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So that can be a bit jarring. But I think it's just, yeah, I guess I try to be intentional with who I hang out with and where I go and what I do. And yeah, I think just like not feeling like I have a responsibility to, it's kind of like, all right, well, that's them, that's their stuff, whatever. Like I'm just gonna move on with my life, my day, whatever.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I felt I'm just having to think around. Yeah, we kind of talked a bit about, what we would say to ourselves when we were first diagnosed. But yeah, I don't know. It does. It feels like it's become such a normal part of our lives that I'm surprised when other people are surprised about it. It's like, yeah, what? Yeah, not a big deal anymore. Like, come on, get with the program.
Is what it is.
Anyway, was there anything else that you wanted to chat about today or?
No.
No. Yeah. Teena and I are a bit in the wars today.
Yeah, I should probably, maybe for those that can notice my manky eye, I have orbital cellulitis. It's and it's starting to leak.
Oh no. All right, well, Yeah, I was just gonna say I just had surgery on my appendix, so I'm a bit if I'm a bit like initial, that's why. But
So if we go down together.
yeah, exactly. And empathizing through our ailments.
Yeah.
All right, no worries, Teena. Always a pleasure.
See ya.
Right.